Hi, everyone.
Hello, everybody.
We're back.
We are back with a vengeance. So, well, I don't know. This morning I woke up and I thought that it might be interesting for me to share what is, I guess, a fairly recent insight, because I think it's been a big game changer for me. I feel like I've had a bit of a seismic shift around it. And to give it some context, I think really for the last few years, I've been a bit of a closet dualist.
What does that mean, a closet dualist? Is it like sword? What is it? A sword fighting dualist?
No, not the sword fighting kind, but the kind where I have been thinking that, well, it's on this subject of free will. Free will has been this term that's been bandied around the 3P community for a while, or in my perception anyway. And so there's this, what I perceive to be this sort of argument, if you like, perhaps the wrong way of defining it, where there is there free will or is there not free will. So I guess I got the sense there was a contingent of people saying there's no such thing as free will, and other contingent of people saying there is free will. And when I was confronted with this argument, again, argument is probably a bad choice of words. I started feeling like judgment come up, because I guess I would notice in a seminar when someone would talk about this that the feeling kind of dropped and it got very intellectual. But what I'm realizing now is it was a case of my feeling would drop because I would get intellectual and I would start thinking, what does that mean? What does that mean? So in that sense, I feel like I want to avoid this topic like the plague. I don't even want to go there because it kind of sends me into turmoil. And so recently I had an insight, and it was a beautiful moment because it was one of those times where an insight just came out of the blue. I wasn't even thinking about it. I was just, I guess, in a good feeling. I was in a settled state. And then I just suddenly had this sudden sense of free will. Oh, free will. It's part of my conceptual mind. I'm making it up. It's kind of like it's part of the illusion of thought. And it just really anchored into me and just made total sense. And I guess why I feel like that's huge for me is that in this sort of turmoil that I was going through about being caught up with this idea that I am this dualist, when I'm hearing so many people who I admire and respect saying that, you know, we are one, I couldn't quite tally that up in my mind, because I felt, well, yeah, you know, there is a higher power, but there's also me, and I'm separate from that higher power, and I'm making decisions. So in my mind, that's kind of how it was running. But then when I suddenly got the sense that it's like, oh, actually, free will is part of the illusion of thought, that was so liberating to me. And it kind of like all my ducks lined up all of a sudden. And I think it's pertinent in all areas of my life, and in particular in relationship. I could say, you know, not that you get caught up. I probably get a lot more caught up than you do.
I'm sure I get caught up.
But when you get caught up, I see, yeah, you're caught up in the illusion of thought. I guess what I'm saying is it's a greater reference point for me to see how I get caught up in the illusion of thought, and my whole inner dialogue around free will was me getting caught up in the illusion of thought. So now I'm like, yeah, I feel like I have a better prescription strength lens to see how I get caught up, but also the people around me who get caught up. And if the people around me are getting caught up, I'm much more likely to look in the direction of their psychological innocence. They just got caught up. They just got caught up in the illusion of thought.
That's wonderful.
So that's yeah, no, I feel like it has been really powerful for me to have that insight. And as I say, it's kind of like I've been sort of secretly carrying it around.
Well, what I love about that is that what you're saying is that you're not seeing yourself separate anymore.
No.
You're not seeing well, we do have that experience as being separate, but you're also seeing the oneness, which is beautiful.
Yeah. And it was kind of interesting around this conversation, because then I would hear people I admire and respect saying, yeah, there is free will. And then they would talk about oneness. And I'm like, I don't get that. That doesn't tally up for me, but now it totally does. It's kind of like, yes, I'm on board. I'm back with the club. I'm allowing myself back in. So I don't feel like this maverick renegade who has this secret anymore. I'm coming out the closet of free will.
But I'm curious more about the practical side of it. Could you say
I was going to say I'm freeing my willy, but that would be...
You would say that.
I wanted to.
You did.
I did. I had to.
Well, say a little bit more about the practical side. Like, what's the practical shift? Like, how did that show up?
Well, the practical shift is I feel like, yeah, now I can, I don't know. It's really, I feel help me in terms of being a coach, in terms of how I help other people. But I think the practical shift is that I get a stronger identification with how I and other people get caught up by the pull of their conceptual mind. That it's sort of like, that's how we separate ourselves from this idea that there is a higher power, that there is a universal intelligence, there is a God, whatever label we're going to slap on it. I see that that's how I was separating myself from that. And that's also an element of getting caught up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes complete sense. I'm just thinking about our relationship. How's that going to show up differently?
Well, because I think so for argument's sake, if I got a sense that you were getting caught up, I would like to think that I would say to myself or be aware, one, you're getting caught up, but there's a psychological innocence in that. That's not something that I have to judge you for. That's actually something I could feel compassion to you towards. Ideally compassion, at the very least neutrality.
And that's something that's been ongoing. It's
Yes.
not new. That part's not new.
Yeah. No, but it's given me a stronger sense of that. I feel like I've gone through another door of perception.
Well, now I have to catch up.
Well, I don't know. You're way ahead of the game, in my opinion.
Not at all.
I'm trying to catch up with you.
Well, it's so great to see everybody that's joining us live. Thank you so much for being here. And, for me, this conversation that you're having, it can feel sort of esoteric, or it can feel conceptual, just like you were describing it. And so really what we're just pointing to is like, what's your experience of that oneness inside of yourself? What's your experience of that connection? And you might talk about it completely differently, but ultimately we all have that feeling experience. We all have that knowing. It's not something that just some of us have. It's true for every single one of us, and we all have our reference points for that. And when we look in that direction, there's just so much more grace and ease in life. And we can live with the conceptual mind and all of its illusions and enjoy the ride of that. That's part of the human experience. But being able to see and feel, for me, it's more of a feeling, to feel the safety, the security, the letting go. Like, that's so nourishing and resourcing. And I'm just so grateful for that. And it doesn't mean I always feel it, but the more I know to look in that direction, everything seems to get better from there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I also want to say this morning, I'm wearing my Little School of Big Change t-shirt,
Look like you're showing.
which gives me the opportunity to segue into this amazingly generous offer that the wonderful Amy Jensen has put on the table for us. So for the Soul Centered Series program, everybody who signs up will be able to enroll in the little book, the Little School of Big Change. They will be able to enroll in that. How amazingly cool is that? It's a TOFA.
Yes, Amy's a colleague and a good friend, and she generously offered to give a spot to her school either the fall or the spring for all of the people that register in the Soul Centered Series. So we're very grateful to you, Amy. Thank you. And want to remind you, the early bird offer for the Soul Centered Series is coming up. It ends next week on July 31st. So if you'd like to join us, that's the best time to sign up. And if you have any questions, just reach out to Angus and I. Sending everybody lots of love. Enjoy your weekend.
Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye.